You're tuning into a deep dive, and today we've got something really timely.
hmm
With Mother's Day just happening, we thought we'd explore, well, motherhood, but maybe through a bit of a different lens.
Yeah, we're looking at a sermon today. It's titled, Her Children Rise and Call Her Blessed by Dr. Bobby J. Allen.
Right. And it offers a very specific viewpoint, doesn't it? Deeply rooted in biblical teachings.
Absolutely. It's not, science or history here. It's a faith perspective, but a pretty powerful one.
Exactly. So our goal isn't just like a sentimental nod to the holiday. We want to really dig into the core ideas from this sermon.
Understand its take on the significance, the influence of mothers.
Yeah, moving beyond the usual stuff to explore the why behind it, at least according to this particular perspective.
And it's important to note, the sermon backs up its points with specific Bible verses all the way through. We'll be looking at those too.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The first big theme seems to be this idea of mothers as a divine gift.
Mhm. Dr. Allen starts with Psalm 127, verse 3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him.
And he connects the mother's role directly to that, like she's part of that divine provision.
Precisely. It's interesting, the sermon doesn't just say that children are the heritage, it sort of elevates the mother herself.
Yeah.
It uses terms like life giver, nurturer, spiritual compass.
Those sound like more than just nice words in this context.
Oh, definitely. Within this theological framework, they carry real weight. They suggest a kind of divinely given purpose and function.
Theological weight.
Let-
Could you maybe unpack that a little? What makes those terms theologically significant here?
Well, in many faith traditions, giving life is seen as mirroring something divine, right?
Yeah.
And nurturing reflects that sort of divine care
Okay.
and a spiritual compass
Yeah.
that points to the mother's role in, guiding moral and spiritual development, aligning with religious ideas about faith and righteousness.
That makes sense. And to illustrate this idea of motherhood being a calling, not just a burden, the sermon brings up Hannah's story from 1 Samuel.
Right. Can you remind us briefly?
Sure. Hannah prayed intensely for a child, promising she'd dedicate him to God.
And she did. When Samuel was born, she took him to the temple.
Exactly. And the sermon uses that to say, look, motherhood isn't just biological or societal. From this view, it's a deliberate calling, a commitment.
Yeah, a purposeful act with spiritual implications. A calling, not a burden.
Mm-hmm.
That's a key distinction they draw.
Mm-hmm. And it goes further, saying when mothers kind of step into that purpose, their children become arrows of impact. What do you make of that image?
Arrows. Well, they imply direction, force, a target. So it suggests a mother aligned with this perceived divine purpose helps shape her children, guide them.
To have a meaningful influence in the world.
Yeah, presumably an influence that aligns with the faith's values. It's about equipping them to navigate life with purpose, really. A powerful idea, even outside of religion.
Definitely. Okay, so from mothers as a divine gift, the sermon then shifts, focusing on their powerful influence. It references 2 Timothy 1.5.
Ah, yes. That verse mentions Timothy's sincere faith, which lives first in his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice.
A heritage of faith passed down. That's the term the sermon uses.
Exactly. And it specifically highlights the maternal line, grandmother, mother, then Timothy.
So what's the main point the sermon draws from this?
It really emphasizes how many people's faith journeys were deeply shaped by their mothers or grandmothers, even if they didn't have, worldly advantages or status.
So the idea is that a mother's faith, her influence, it has a power that kind of transcends worldly measures.
That's the core of it. The sermon actually says this influence can shake heaven and shape destinies.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
It really is. It underscores the huge spiritual power attributed to a mother's faith and prayers in this context. These quiet acts are seen as having massive, far-reaching consequences.
Affecting lives, maybe even eternal outcomes from their perspective.
And it elaborates with that metaphor of mothers planting seeds. Seeds of truth, grace, courage.
The seed metaphor
Yeah.
that speaks to the long game, right? Things that might not be obvious right away.
Precisely. Like seeds, the impact takes time to grow. Her teachings, her example, the nurturing, it might bear fruit much later.
It's interesting how it highlights those often unseen efforts. I think anyone in a caring role can relate to that feeling, that the day-to-day stuff sometimes feels invisible.
Absolutely. It suggests those small, consistent efforts can yield a really significant harvest down the line.
Okay, let's move to the third point. Recognizing a mother's sacrifices. The sermon brings in Galatians 6.9 here.
Yeah, the verse about not getting tired of doing good. Perseverance.
And how does it connect that specifically to motherhood?
It draws a direct line. It talks about the unseen, continuous work Midnight prayers, long days, tearful nights, selfless giving, things that often go unnoticed.
And it tackles that question head on, doesn't it? The one many mothers might ask. Does any of this really matter?
It does. The sermon gives a very strong yes. It reframes it all as planting eternity in the hearts of their children.
Planting eternity. So it's not just about the day-to-day upbringing, it's about something much bigger, more lasting.
Exactly. It gives those daily tasks and sacrifices profound, eternal significance, according to this view. It's about shaping a spiritual path.
And there's an assurance that the harvest from those efforts will come.
Yes, maybe in different ways, a child's faith, their character, their resilience, just who they become. The results will show up eventually.
Right. Then the sermon shifts again, this time to the importance of honoring mothers. It uses Exodus 20.12.
Commandment, honor your father and your mother, a foundational one.
And the sermon's take is that this command, well, it doesn't expire.
Right. No expiration date. That's the phrase used. It applies whether mothers are near or far, living or dead, young or old, always.
Does it give practical ways to do that for mothers who are still here and those who've passed?
It does. For living mothers, simple things. Call them, tell them you love and appreciate them, show gratitude actively. And for those who are gone, it suggests honoring them by remembering them, sharing stories, keeping their legacy alive, passing on their values.
That's important. It also touches on difficult relationships, which is a reality for some.
It acknowledges that not all relationships are smooth sailing. In those cases, it encourages seeking God's grace for healing, maybe reconciliation, or just finding a way to honor them respectfully, even with the difficulties.
That adds a layer of realism and compassion.
Definitely.
And fundamentally, why does the sermon say honoring mothers is so crucial? What's the bigger picture connection?
It links honoring mothers directly to honoring God's design, his plan for family, for community. It's presented as aligning with divine will, acknowledging the essential role mothers play in society's fabric, seen through that faith lens.
Okay. And then finally, there's a broadening out, a section called A Word for All Women.
Yes. This part is quite inclusive. It expands the idea beyond just biological mothers.
How so?
It explicitly recognizes and affirms roles like spiritual mothers, mentors, caregivers, teachers, or nurturers.
So acknowledging that maternal nurturing influence can come from many women in many roles.
Exactly. It says all women in these kinds of roles have a significant, even sacred influence, whether they have biological kids or not.
That's a really positive and encompassing message. And it wraps up with Proverbs 31, doesn't it? Verses 30 and 31.
Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done.
And let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Why those specific verses to conclude?
Well, they shift the focus from outward appearances to inner character and actions. True praise, the sermon argues, belongs to women rooted in faith whose actions demonstrate their impact. It values substance over the superficial.
Got it. So wrapping up our deep dive into the sermon, we've touched on mothers as a divine gift, their powerful influence through faith, the need to recognize their sacrifices, and the command to honor them.
Right. And also that broader recognition of nurturing roles beyond biological motherhood. It's a specific framework, yes, but it offers a pretty profound way to think about mothers.
It really does. Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener. Thinking about this sermon, maybe consider all the different seeds of influence, good, maybe sometimes not so good, that get planted in families, in communities, every day. How can each of us, whatever our role, consciously try to cultivate the seeds that lead to lasting good? Seeds of growth, faith, love, courage in the lives we touch.
It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, of the ripple effects of our own actions and values.